Hello and welcome to this level 4 video. My name is Allie with A. Marie Speaks, and this is going to be sort of a terminology breakdown video, a quick foundational reminder before we really jump into what level 4 will be dedicated to, the external systems. If you haven't seen my two videos already in level 4, I highly suggest taking some time to watch them. They are like a little bit longer, half an hour, 45 minutes sort of time span, lecture kind of discussion video, both of them. But they are pivotal to reaffirming our present point and our standing before we turn this lens and before we really switch our focus of attention from ourselves and the inner world out into the external world. I talked already kind of about the crucial importance of this and the whys and stuff. So definitely hop back into my previous video if you've missed that one and you'd like to hear, my opinion about the whys. But here for this video, like I said, I would really like to just introduce or rekindle people's understanding of the terms energy, light, information. To me, much like Taurus is a single thing, and we have this sort of mainstream model of the Taurus, and we have these sort of accepted identification points and applications and usage and stuff like that. I really saw some other more intricate, nuanced workings, happening in the Taurus, and broke it down into 3 of these sort of functions. External, internal, and then that lemniscatic figure 8 Mobius flow that happens between the two. Now, when we talk about energy, information, and light, I really feel these are the 3 pieces of a Taurus. And maybe we don't have exactly like verbiage confirmed and everybody agrees on the same term to say what the 3 are completely. And I'm just going to kind of leave it there. I'm not going to make up a word for it. But just I want to outline this sort of placeholder for us to think about and to see how it fits for you, to feel it out, to see if you resonate with that as well, and then take it from there, basically. But to me, and to understanding how I have been seeing things and observing energy. Energy seems to be just another word for light, and light seems to be another word for information. There is, when we get into metaphysical, technicalities and stuff, we have really created some sort of nuanced boundaries, and we have these, definitions in there that separate them out. And I'm not saying they're not valid, I'm not saying they're not important. Just like the external systems have pieces that they do only, the internal has pieces that they do only, and the spirit has things that they do only. However, they all come together in this sort of vibratory song to create the appearance of you, right? And just like energy, light, and information come together and create appearances of things, all types of different things. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about here, and sort of open people's eyes up about, and create some wiggle room before we get into talking about external service and what kind of exchanges we're involved in and what kind of work we're really doing in those exchanges. It's important to say, well, what are we exchanging? What's being worked with here, right? Just like we are energy beings made of, multi-dimensional worlds, mind, body, and spirit, right? Physical, mental, and etheric, perhaps, if you like that word. Our world is made up on those 3 layers. All of life is, every other being is. And each of those worlds have their own interpretation and ideas of what light, energy, and information are. And they're all valuable, and they're all right, and they're all true. It's sort of like a mannequin, you know, a dress model. When you have that metal skirt sort of shape, you can build on there whatever skirt or dress you want, whatever color, whatever fabrics. You can put on any type of add-ons and frills and laces and all of these things. It's infinite. But the mannequin underneath and the model of the skirt remains the same. And it is the same. And so that's sort of the mannequin in the skirt is energy, light, information. And every single boss and every layer within us has its own version. It has its own color it likes. It has its fabric it prefers. It has a fit. Pockets or not, you know, zippers or buttons. Each one has their own flavoring and hue that it incorporates energy through. And it leaves the rest for others. And I talked a bit about that in the last video, about how we incorporate information through the layers, and how there's a mirroring and an echoing, a handoff, and a swapping of sort of poles and flow, positive and negative, and how that mirroring and swapping creates this push and pull vibratory boundary of sorts, and how that collects a momentum when we have a good charge. So if you missed that video and you want to know more about that and how the structure and the function works, check that video out. But here, instead of talking about the structure and the functions of the processes, what I want to talk about is what they're processing, right? And just know that these are only ideas and sort of focal points. It's not end-all be-all. It's not a list for you to check off everything and say, you know, you can fill in blanks, you can take away, you can keep what resonates with you. I'm just here to offer, like I said, to open up a bit of space so that as we talk about different systems and different interactions, that we could remember sort of the truth and the basics of what's happening. And so we have this sort of energy, information, light, coagulation of energy that all systems do work with. And depending on what kind of work they're doing and what layer they're involved with, you know, they might have more to do with light as information, as that energy, as those transactions. It might be more light-based transactions. We might have more energy-based transactions, kinetic potential energies. We might have more information transactions, literal sensory information handoffs happening. There's, you know, any combination ratios in between, all are possible. Just keep that in mind. Now, I'm almost want to echo myself in the last video I did. I'm not going to go back there. But I really hope others have already watched this so you can hear and understand about how when the body, the mind, and the spirit, mind, body, make this passing off, this telephone game that I talked about in the last video. They're handing off and taking with them different flavors of this work as well. So when information, sensory information comes in first and foremost through the body, it comes in most obvious form, you know, of light and sensory input. And those pass into the body's boss. And the body's boss, that's resources and needed information for the body to do the body's working. It has to have, you know, energy It needs the information about what the body's doing. It needs that kinetic energy to do work, physical movements and exchanges. And it needs certain level of spirit. It needs love and empowerment and energy, right? And that boss will take in each of those types of information. Those three versions, of the working, the processes, it has its own version of all of those. And it does its own work with each three types of those. Now, it passes those off. What it doesn't need and what is more favorable to the mind and the spirit, those things porously like a filter pass down and are handed into the next levels. What happens with the ascension of information or the changes of energy or light is a threefold ascension process as well. And this is where it can get a little, muddled and confusing. But if we just always remember that these are templates and that every application of the template will be individual, it will be tailor-fit and different, the overwhelm can really go away. You can not get lost in the chaoticness of change and of the variability and the manyness. When you remember, they all follow simple rules. They all follow simple triad of creation. They all follow a harmonious balance of positive and negative work and exchanges. Then we don't have to worry about the tailor-fit applications and those little nuanced changes, because through all of the layers of reality worlds, all of the different languages, they all have the same message that they're doing or sharing. And so the accent in the word, it doesn't really, it shouldn't worry us. It shouldn't matter to us. We've made it really matter to us, but we should work as hard as we can to leave that as an expected, beautiful, definite. It's just like change. The only constant is change, right? This is like that's the same thing. It's to know that the only constant is these truths. Really is going to be crucial to us. Because it's a bit scattered and there's lots of things. But when we remember that there's really just polarity and processes happening, and when we can look at those two on every single layer, the truth will speak for themselves. You'll be able to see that, okay, through polarity and processes, I can tell what types of energy, light, and information are going to be most useful, a medium amount of useful, and then, not so useful. And so let's just talk about the workings here for a moment, now that we understand the basics. In every exchange, no matter what the system is, there's three levels of exchange, potentials happening, the ascension of work that each system, each portion of every system will go through, or can go through. And it's basic and simple, again, so you'll be able to really see how it gets tailor-fit to every different level and every different change within you. I'm going to use information and the words for information just because they're more tangible and understandable than trying to create an ascension of energy and an ascension of light. For the ascension, just understand that those two also have this three-part reflection. Information, we have out there, first, information, new information. And that can be, anything you don't know yet, but it's there. Something that you are exposed to that you didn't know. Then we have knowledge, and that is after you've been exposed to a thing and you've seen it a couple times, and you have some knowledge base on it. It's not new. and you've done some sort of exploration on it already. You have this sort of surface level idea of it. And then the third one is wisdom. And wisdom comes returning to knowledge and really diving into it, understanding that that knowledge picture that you've created is sort of like I said, the tip of the iceberg, or the crust on the frozen lake, and that there's a body of water underneath that frozen crust that is the lake. And that's wisdom, exploring a lake, understanding that the lake has a sooty bottom, there's rocks in it. Where'd the water come from? What's outside the lake? What's the land? Where's the mountains? What's rain? All of these other things that you can never even grasp until you've ever dove into a lake and understand the lake. That's wisdom. And that's the third tier of this sort of ascension of information, this three versions that I'm offering. Okay? Every layer, every exchange, every boss has things that are new to it, has a knowledge base of things that it generally works with, that it knows, and it has a mastery wisdom of that, those things which it's meant to do, those things which organically and naturally it is like, it has an affinity for, its gift or purpose, its niche and its beautiful portion, a mosaic in the whole of the stained glass window. This sort of ascension and availability of different kinds of information is down at the minute level of all the processes that happen inside systems. This is what they're doing. This is the work that they're doing. The exchanges of information. And it can be information, it can be knowledge, or it can be wisdom. And each of those three have different managers and different workers who, work for each one of those. And this is why internal workings is so important. It's why, everything starts internally, because I hope you can see the great variability and the malleability of that, and how in your own inside voices you can hear things that are your wisdom points, that are your knowledge points, that is information to you. And the differences, the cognitive differences between that, right? But then also go and notice, wait a minute, not just what are the cognitive mental differences in my knowledge points, but how do I feel? What emotions do those different stages provoke within me? What kind of energetic responses? Do I feel empowered or disempowered by that, right? What kind of physical responses even does that? Do you slump when you think of information that you don't know yet? When you think of wisdom, do you stand higher? Is your heart more open? Is your throat more open? Do you feel restrictions? Do you feel, or conversely, you could feel slumped about wisdom and feel you're not good enough. You could never have wisdom. There's so many different options and opportunities. Every level and layer and system within you has a right to interact with all three of those types in different ways. And yet every concept has a different availability to information, wisdom, and knowledge as well. And so there's lots of things going on when we talk about external processes, when we talk about any energy exchanges, honestly. And I didn't want to start off the foundations and into the Taurus and everything with really slamming into the metaphysical, esoteric ideas of light and information as well, because for new people, or even for not so new people, it's a lot. It's a lot of information to go through. And every page in this book you could read forever. You really could. Because as long as you choose to look at that page, there will be another sentence after, and a sentence after that. That's the beauty of organic manyness, of the creation of creator essence, right? But it's also can be overwhelming. You could also feel like, oh, I have to read all this book. But no, you don't have to read the whole book. you know? We just need to know the concepts. You read the table of contents, understand the chapters at hand, right? Just like when we're counting and you learn to count from 1 to 10. We'd never make every kindergartner, start by counting 0.0001, 0.002, and make them count all the way to 1, and then make them count through 1 like that, all the way to 2, and then count through 2 all the way to 3 with all these zeros. No, we just teach them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's enough for now. It doesn't mean that that's not real. It doesn't mean that, mathematicians or anybody who's interested in numbers or whatever can't show you the evidence, the truth, that you can count 1.000, that you have to, that's there. It matters. And it's like, yeah, it is there, and it does matter, but not really. It doesn't matter enough that it's ever going to change counting from 1 to 10. It doesn't. And just because you know that you could add any zeros in there and you know how to do that and you take your time counting all of them just to make sure 14.00 comes after 15.00, you can take your time. You can spend your personal time and effort, your priceless moments in present time on that. Controlling, micromanaging effort of counting if you want. But don't tie your worth up into that and then make everybody else think that they have to learn to count that way too in order to just have some kind of wisdom. It's not really like that, You're really kind of trapping yourself in a liar's loop and turning negatively oriented when you do things like that, when you see the world in this sort of hierarchy, directionality, forced flow. But we'll get into more of understanding that and more about sensing and feeling a positive free flow versus restricted directionality, a negative flow, right? And to realize that's actually negative orientation. And not saying negative is bad, because sometimes a forced directionality is imperative. We have to have it. They're necessary in many, many, many areas. But doesn't mean that it's the only one in the end-all be-all. It's supposed to be a balancing mechanism towards free-flowing information as well. But yeah, we'll get more into inversions, manipulation, into this negative overlay a little bit more once we talk and introduce external systems. But for now, I just wanted to really sort of underline the manyness and the variability of all of these different energy exchanges that our systems are a part of at all times, at all moments. Because the more that you can become an observer of those things, the more that you witness those different experiences within yourself, right? You're creating a knowledge base for yourself. And it's turning from information into knowledge within you. And then as you work more with all these systems and more with all your internal bosses and energy alchemy, you will discover even more and more. And those knowledge points will turn to wisdom points for you. And you'll have a much clearer light within yourself. And I'm just going to tie it up quickly, and we can get into way more of these sort of esoteric metaphysical parallels between energy, light, and information in another video. But just for anybody who's interested or hears those parallels, and you've probably heard me talk about them before with light and shadow work, we are these sort of instrument energetic vessels. If you could use a visualization of these prisms, like pyramids, tetrahedron maybe, or whatever kind, you could choose any shape that you'd like, but to understand that the energy centers within us all work in our whole all of our body in itself, the physical vessels. Each cell is its own prism. It brings in light and information, it integrates it, it interprets it, and it transfers it out. It splits it out across the spectrum of its own knowledge. And that splitting and that rainbow sharing of that spectrum of knowledge is shared with every other one around it, every other cell around it. And depending on how clear your prism is, right? How much alchemy you've done to sort of allow full spectrum light to come in, more conscious wisdom to ride in on the light, not just information, but knowledge and wisdom can be incorporated through light as well, right? That will help you to find more truth, to hear and seek more harmonious solutions too, within and with the external. And so I'm going to leave it there for now, and excuse me. Oh, I feel like I'm missing a little point, but I think mostly it is excuse me. If you haven't heard or listened to my podcast, sort of my brainstorm ones around the ascension of information, I really suggest, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, listening to those. I went over sort of roundabout talk through on these topics already on there. So if you're interested in more about this light as information kind of thing, you can totally check out my podcast for more. And yeah, I guess I'm going to leave it there for now. And we will get into the makeup of the external systems and look at that three-part reflection in the external body in the next video. So I hope that you will join me next time. Thank you so much for listening, for your contribution to the collective as well. And as always, thank you for witnessing mine. I will see you next time.